Words in papers, words in books. Words on TV, words for crooks. Words for comfort, words for peace. Words to make the fighting cease. Words to tell...
Welcome to the world of Wordaholics. Hello, I'm Gyles Brandreth, and this is Wordaholics, the panel show that would never crassly split an infinitive. Apart from that one. Joining me today are four fellow Wordaholics. They are Ed Byrne, Natalie Haynes, Hannah Gadsby, and Milton Jones. Before round one, let's take a moment to find out a bit more about our guests and their lexical lives. First, we welcome Ed Byrne to Wordaholics. Ed, before becoming a comedian and writer, you studied horticulture. Do you have a favourite horticultural word for us?
I always liked the technical names of plants that were easy to remember. For instance, the alpine aster. Do you know what the alpine aster's Latin name is?
Tell us.
Aster alpinus. So that's always been a favourite of mine. I do enjoy the language of horticulture, and I do like to listen to Gardener's Question Time. But to make it more interesting, I always imagine that they're speaking in code about their genitals. It does make it a lot more fun. It doesn't work for every question, but every now and again some old dear will phone in with a problem about her box hedge.
Next, we turn to Natalie Haynes, the closest thing to a mascot this show is allowed. Natalie, you've recently turned your hand to the writing of a murderous thriller.
That's true.
What do you think is the most thrilling word or phrase you've come across?
I think probably it's an almost musical phrase, and that would be da da da. Because if you put it after anything, it makes it thrilling. For example, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Da da da! What's going to happen next? No one knows.
Now we welcome to the show the Australian comedian, actor and writer Hannah Gadsby. Hannah, as our first and probably only guest from the island of Tasmania, could you share with us your favourite Tasmanian word or phrase?
We same language. But there was a thing that my mum used to say, now I'm not sure if it's Tasmanian or just my mum, but she used to say, "Ooh, he's a little bit kiss me quick, I'm full of jubes." Now...
Kiss me quick what?
Kiss me quick, I'm full of jubes. Now, do you have jubes here?
As in jujubes?
Yep, jujubes.
They're sort of sweeties?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And she'd say, like, "Ooh, he's a little bit kiss me quick, I'm full of jubes." And meaning it's someone she thinks might be homosexual. As she would say it too, homosexual. So it's like, "Oh yeah, he's a little bit kiss me quick, I'm full of tubes."
Does that sort of thing go on in Tasmania?
Yes, it was illegal up until 1998, I think, but now it's they're head of the game, so to speak.
Isn't Tasmania itself used as a slang term for lady bits?
The map of Tassie refers because of its shape is the same shape as the pubic hair region on a woman's body.
No.
It's like a triangle with the pointy bit down.
I don't know why I gave up geography so early. And finally, we welcome back Milton Jones, a man known equally for his playful way with words and colourful way with a shirt. Milton, could you tell us your favourite colourful word?
Smarties, that's a colourful word. You can get Smartie sweets, you can get Smartie ice cream, you can even get Smartie pants, apparently.
Let's begin with our letter of the week round. We've got a particularly exciting treat for you this week. It may be the last, but it's certainly not the least. It's the letter Z. And here he comes. He's zippy, he's zesty, he's always in the zone. Zigzagging all over the ring, he's the very zenith of a letter, zooming about like a zeppelin. He's such a zinger that next to him we're zero, we're zilch. The Americans call him Z, but that's just zany. I'd better stop talking as I'm sounding like a zealot, and he'll zunk me on the zygoma. Ladies and gentlemen, the letter Z. Ed, a Z for you. What would you do if I gave you a zigazagger?
I would pass it on to the nearest Spice Girl. As I believe it is what they want, what they really, really want.
Thank going to give you a hint. It's a sporting sound.
Oh, good. A sporting sound.
A sound. A noise.
It's not the name of those things the clacking things that you. I'm doing a hand signal on the radio. Why am I doing that? Those clacky things that you used to spin at football in the 70s.
It's exactly that. You score 4 points. Completely correct answer.
I thought they were just called clacky things.
No, a zigzagger is actually an onomatopoeic nickname for those large rattles that football fans used to use at football matches. As it was swung round a handle, it made a loud clacking sound that apparently sounded like zigger-zagger. Personally, I cannot stand them, football fans. So that's a zigger-zagger, not to be confused with those two strange creatures that appeared on The Big Breakfast in the 1990s. They, of course, were Chris Evans and Gabby Rossi. Natalie Haynes, here's your Z. What is a zombie title? A zombie title.
It's the polite way to address a zombie. Because when the zombie apocalypse comes, Giles, manners is going to be all we've got left.
I give you a little bonus for imagination, and I give you...
You say imagination, Giles, I say prediction. Let's go the whole thing off.
A zombie title. I'll give you a hint. Not so much dead as in the red.
Oh, it must be financial. An organisation which has... No, it's something personal. He's doing faces for people who are listening to this on the radio. A house.
I'm trying to help you. Houses are something to do with it, you're right. A title deed, possibly?
Yeah, so you own a house and then you can't afford to keep up the repayments on it. And it eats your brains.
I'm going to give you a couple of points because you're getting there. It's quite complicated. A zombie title, it's an all too current financial term. It's what happens when a bank starts a foreclosure against you, but then, unbeknownst to you, decides it's cheaper to write the debt off instead, leaving you being pursued by bills for a home you thought you no longer owned, but actually do. So it's quite sinister.
And it eats your brains.
Yeah, it does. Actually, you should remember, the way to deal with zombies is to chop their heads off. Mortgage companies usually require something a bit more violent. Zombie title is also quite a neat way of describing some of our current hereditary peers. Hannah Gadsby, a Z for you now. Would you want to make a zugzwang? Z-U-G-Z-W-A-N-G.
Zugzwang.
One word.
Yes, I would. I think is it when you you got to fall over and you run it out, you trot it out? No.
I'm going to give you a hint.
Thanks.
Check in 3.
What?
Check in 3.
Is it? Oh, chess. Okay, so it's not quite checkmate, but it's gonna be.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It is a chess term. It's German for compulsion to move, Zugzwang. It refers to when you have to make a move, even knowing that to do so would be detrimental to you.
Oh, like going to the toilet at a festival.
Your life experience gets you a little bonus there.
Thanks.
In fact, my old neighbours, they had a bad case of Zugzwang. As soon as I bought the house next door, they had a compulsion to move. Finally, Milton, what do you think a zafty might be? A zafty, Z-A-F-T-Y.
Is this like in some foreign countries when you're about to take off in an aeroplane, they say, please fasten your seatbelts for your own health and safety? No, it's not.
It's not there. I'm going to give you a hint. I'm sure I can talk you into giving me
interrogation, sweet talking, seduction.
I'm going to have to give it to you. Zafty is a sadly obsolete term these days, but back in the 19th century it meant a person very easily imposed upon. A pushover is a zafty. I'd never let anyone call me a pushover, unless they wanted to, obviously. Next round is all about toponyms. Oh, good. Which are, I love toponyms. They're words and phrases derived from place names. For example, Mersey Beat, which is the type of music you get when you beat up Ollie Murs. Okay? It's the round we like to call Toponyms of the Pops. Greetings, toponym pickers. Natalie, we'll start with you. What would you think if I described you as the Cheshire?
I would think that you thought I was either some cheese, or an unusually happy cat? Those are my options.
No, I'm going to tell you what it is. I hope you'll be pleased, actually, because a Cheshire means perfect. It's a term that was around in London in the 1900s and is based on the recognised high standard to which Cheshire cheese was made. If you like something, you say, you know, this Radio 4 panel game, hosted by Gyles Brandreth, really is the Cheshire. Similarly, I've often been described as the Stilton. Because I'm quite veiny and starting to smell, I suppose. Milton, one for you. What do you think Thames butter might be? Thames butter.
Thames butter, is it like inland anchor butter? Or if it's actually butter made from the Thames, it should be called I Can't Believe It's Not Life-Threatening.
Well, I think in trying to be funny, you've actually got the answer completely right, so you're going to get all the points, because it's a very simple one. Thames butter was just really awful butter. And it's based on a story that was printed in the South London press in 1870, claiming that a Frenchman had been trying to sell butter made from Thames mud. And the paper then had to print an apology when it was discovered that this Frenchman was actually a prominent French scientist who was researching mudworms. So butter is made by churning fermented cream and milk, not to be confused with margarine, which is made from mudworms. But all that about the South London press and the apology and all that is absolutely true. At least the newspapers have stopped all that making up stories nonsense now. Finally, Ed Byrne, a toponym for you. What do you think is meant if something has gone to Pimlico?
Something has gone to Pimlico. It was probably sent there on the Victoria line. I have no idea. It's doing quite well for itself.
Quite the reverse of that. So
it's gone to the dogs.
It's gone to the dogs. So as it were, you're going to lose marks, but you've been saved by your teammate Natalie, so you're going to score nothing because you cancelled each other out. But it does mean smashed or ruined.
Why is that?
Well, it's quite depressing, really, as far as toponyms go, as it's based on the fact that in the early 1900s, Pimlico was known to be populated with slums and, quotes, a favourite residential centre for fallen women. Nowadays, due to its proximity to Westminster, Pimlico is home to numerous members of Parliament. So either convenient or not much improvement, depending on which way you pay to look at it. So, it's time now for our panel to flex their creative muscles and indeed their atlases, as I'm going to ask them to coin a new toponym of their own. Any new words or phrases based on place names for us. That's what we're after. Natalie, I'm going to start with you again. It's only fair.
I'll give you a couple. Hackney, I think, should be a skin complaint suffered by tabloid journalists. Alaska should be a question that only a woman can really answer.
Hannah, what about you?
I'll give you an Australian one, I think. Christmas Island, which is where Australia is taking all the asylum seekers that are trying to reach Australia by boat for asylum, and we're like, no. And we take them to indefinite detention at Christmas Island, which sounds fun, but it's horrific. So I think Christmas Island should be a term for something that sounds great, but is horrific. Like, that bouncy castle at the pub was a real Christmas Island.
I'm sorry to hear that Christmas Island isn't a jolly place. No Santas, no trees, no snow.
No.
Oh, dear. Oh, well, there we are. Milton, any toponyms for us?
I was thinking that small Belgian TV presenters come from a town called Antwerp. Or a sick person from the Midwest who keeps phoning you in the night is an ill annoyance. I once called someone from Paris a parasite, but
Oh, very good. Ed, anything to offer me?
I've always thought that Galway could be a good word for the bile duct.
And with that, it is the end of the round, and goodness, Hannah and Milton, they're in second place. Natalie and Ed, thanks to that little bit of Galway, they are the leaders now. Now is the round that we like to call Eat It or Not. because that's its name. It's really quite simple. I'll be hurling a barrage of foreign words at our panel, and they'll have to decide whether they'd be able to eat it or not. And it's against the timer, so no long deliberations, please. When the time is up, you'll hear this noise.
Delicious.
So, bon appétit. Start the clock. Hannah Gadsby, you first. A Danish word. Udviklingsland. Eat it or not?
Yes.
No, you'd be pretty ill. It's a developing country. Milton, a Swedish word. Fangvaktari. Eat it or not?
Yes, please.
I wouldn't. It's a prison guard. Ed, a Catalan word for you. Sigro. Fancy a bite?
Yes, I'll eat that.
Why not? It's a chickpea. Natalie, I'm offering you a Norwegian skarv. S-K-A-R-V. Eat it or not?
Oh, no.
I suppose you could if you insisted. It's a cormorant.
I'm not going to eat a cormorant.
No, you could. Fried in chocolate. Anyway. Hannah, fancy a Hungarian hogsog?
No.
No, you're right. You'd be cruel if you did because it's a hamster. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to eat
Exactly. How are cormorants okay?
Milton, feeling peckish for an Albanian matsea?
Yes, please.
You'd be a monster because you might be able to manage it. It's a kitten under these circumstances. Ed, for you, a Dutch eenhoorn. Eat it or not?
Delicious.
You were beaten by the gong, and it was such a tasty-looking unicorn.
I ate one of those the last time I was in Amsterdam.
Well, after all that, I really do hope we've not put you off your lunch, listeners. Of course, the greatest wish for any true wordaholic is to mint their very own word, one that will enter the lexicon as smoothly and certainly as, say, Gyles Brandreth into the House of Lords. So, of course, by the time this is broadcast, that may be a dated remark, who knows? So in a typically generous and, may I say, charitable way, I shall now let them do just that. Panel, do you have any new words for us to add to the dictionary? Milton, you can start us off. Have you come up with a word for us?
Parashambles. That's when you're in a fighter jet listening to a CD and you press the wrong eject button. We've all done it.
Hannah, have you brought one us?
I want a word for that time between when you like someone and you love them, and it's too soon to say you love them because they'll run away, and they did. What? I'm fine. And but you just need a word for the in-between. So I can't think of the word, but I thought of a word, and then I thought, oh no, that's a bad one. But it's shelve.
Shelve?
Yeah.
Fine. A shelve is your in-between word.
Yeah.
But you're not really happy with it.
Well, no, it sounds impersonal.
If you,
if
you stay on after the programme, I know a very nice relate counsellor that I could... we'll discuss this and try and help you as much as we can. Natalie, what word will you add to the dictionary?
I would like a word for, I think, new phenomenon, which is when tickets go on sale for something quite desirable. Examples this year would include Monty Python and Kate Bush, and they're all sold out in about 0.001 seconds, entirely to people who then intend to resell them for an enormous markup which the artist doesn't get and which the fans can't afford. And I would like those people to be known as a fraudience.
Yet again, Natalie, the nation is with you.
Yeah, I know. I should be starting some sort of political rally, I think. This is almost certainly how Hitler began.
You could sell tickets.
Yeah, I could sell tickets to a fraudian... No, I'm done.
We should have you in the House of Lords.
We shouldn't have me in the House of Lords.
No, don't you think so?
I feel confident I'd behave badly.
No.
Remember that Baroness who flipped someone the V's? That'd be my best day. And if you trip somebody who's old, you get in trouble.
That's Mum, but she herself, Baroness Trumpington, I think she was about 95 at the time.
She's about 200.
Yeah.
If you round it down to the nearest 200, she's about 200.
Anyway.
And I reckon she would trip someone as soon as look at them. I reckon she puts her foot out when some shuffly old person's going past and sends them flying.
And
she's got the look.
You'd be dressed in ermine too.
I can't be dressed in ermine. I'd have to be dressed in, some kind of pretend ermine, some kind of black fake ermine.
Faux ermine.
Yeah. Vermin. Oh. Vermin. Oh.
Finally, Ed Byrne.
I have invented a word for people who they don't tell you what's going to happen in a film, but people that you'll watch a film with them and they keep saying this is a good bit. Those people. They sit and they watch it to see how much you enjoyed the bit they really enjoyed, and they smile, and they do it with music as well. They go, oh, this is the best bit. This is the best bit. It's not a great bit. Those people, and it's their enjoyment of it leeches. It sucks the joy out of it from me. So I would call them cheer bleeders.
New words are all very well and good, but now's the time to turn to some older, more decrepit ones. This week's selection comes from John Russell Bartlett's 1848 page-turner, A Dictionary of Americanisms, very much the 50 Shades of Grey of its day. Natalie, I'm going to turn to you first. What do you suppose our cousins from across the pond would mean by a hurrah's nest? H-U-R-R-A'-S, nest, N-E-S-T. I'll give you a multiple choice. Does it mean A, a state of messy confusion, B, a wild celebration, or C, moving into someone else's home without them noticing? To create a hurrah's nest, what is it?
I'm gonna go wild confusion because it sounds messy.
It is messy, it sounds messy, you've got the right answer, you get the points. To create a hurrah's nest is to create a state of confusion. It's A. One might say, you've made a real hurrah's nest in here. Put all these Latin textbooks away at once, Natalie, and play outside like the rest of the children.
If my parents had ever said that, Giles, I would have had a very different life. Have some more Latin textbooks. Stay in. Don't sunburn.
Oh, were they in fact dragged you in from the garden to get you to do that? Is that why you're
you don't grow up this pasty and this nerdy without a little help. That's just true. That's just true.
Anyway, you get the points there. Hannah, what do you think Mr. Bartlett meant by a talking iron?
Oh, I want to say it's Angela Lansbury's character in Beauty and the Beast, but she was a teapot.
I'll give you some alternatives.
Thanks.
It could be A, an ear trumpet, B, when you're ironing, the telephone rings, you reach for the wrong thing, and hilarity ensues, or C, a shotgun, a talking iron.
Well, I'm going to say it's a shotgun.
And you're right to say it's a shotgun. You get all the marks, you got it straight away. A talking iron is a shotgun or a rifle. They weren't great conversationalists in the old Wild West. They just let their irons do the talking. Milton, what might you be if you were wamble cropped? W-A-M-B-L-E, cropped.
Is there something to do with harvesting meat in Wimbledon?
No.
No, it's not, is it?
That's being wamble cropped.
Oh, yes. Wamble is when Jonathan Ross goes for a walk.
I'll give you some alternatives. Would you be A, feeling wretched, B, feeling horny, or C, feeling around in the dark after the lights have gone out? Wamble cropped. Feeling wamble cropped.
The first one.
Feeling wretched, that's what it
Yes.
is. You're right, you get the points. Feeling wamble cropped means to be sick to the stomach or feeling wretched. Mid-19th century New Englander might say, I'm feeling so wamble cropped, I've just realised they won't be inventing wordaholics for another 160
Is that
years.
something to do with the crop ken or whatever it can?
The crop is indeed in your throat. That's it. The crop is your gullet.
Yeah, right.
Wambled, it's all, all messed up. You're feeling ghastly. I'm doing a slight Tasmanian. Do you think it's quite effective?
No.
In its own way, fine.
Yeah.
I won't do that anymore. Finally, Ed Byrne. What would it mean if you'd shot your grandmother?
Very much depends which one.
Would you have A, brought shame on the family, B, made a massive mistake, or C, taken a very selective family portrait?
Well, I mean, certainly the first two would be true, right? I'm not...
It's a phrase from New England.
I think to bring shame upon the family. Maybe it's like because then the grandmother would shoot herself out of shame that you did something so awful that you may as well have shot the grandmother yourself.
No points. It's B, to shoot one's grandmother was a New England phrase meaning you've made a bit of an error.
See, in my house, to shoot your grandmother would mean to have Christmas dinner with slightly fewer racial epithets being thrown around.
Is that what it's like at your home?
Not anymore, we shot her.
course, it is. I mean, these circumstances is quite confusing because if, in fact, you actually shot your grandmother and you intended to do so, well, you haven't shot your grandmother because you have shot your grandmother, and that's what you wanted to do, so it's not an error, so you haven't shot your grandmother, while at the same time shooting your grandmother. So it's actually tautological, it's quite interesting. But that's what it is. You know, you might say you turned down an invitation for tea with Gyles. You really shot your grandmother there, I can tell you. It means just making a bit of a mistake. Oh, you shot your grandmother. That's what they used to say in the good old days in New England. So, that anachronistic amusement brings us to the end of the show, and I can see that in second place, there's been a bit of a turnaround. Yes, at the last minute, we find that Natalie and Ed are losers, which means our winners are Hannah and Milton. So, hurrah to our winners and a horror's nest to our losers. So, winners, before we go, could you describe your Wordaholics experience in just one word, Hannah?
I'll use my mum's lead and say tubes. Gay in the ye olde sense.
Jubes, very good. That's your word of the week, jubes.
Jubes.
And what about you, Milton?
Quality, quality, quality. Apparently there's a road up north called Quality Street. And there's only one person living in it, and he's both Turkish and delightful.
And the losers, Natalie.
I think we're going to have to appropriate one of Milton's words and declare ourselves a parashambles.
I don't think so at all. I think you did very well. You just lost. Ed Byrne, what's your word of the week?
Grand matricidal.
So that's all from this week's Wordaholics. Will you please thank one more time our wonderful guests, Ed Byrne, Natalie Haynes, Hannah Gadsby and Milton Jones. Until next time, goodbye. You've been listening to Wordaholics, chaired by me, Gyles Brandreth. It's written by John Hunter and James Kettle. The producer is Claire Jones.